How's it going, YouTube? My name's Ninja7 and welcome into a Mistweaver video. And I like doing these kinds of videos because this is kind of like an FAQ style, like tips and tricks video where I kind of get to just explain a lot of things that I'm either asked about a lot or just show some cool tricks that Mistweavers have in their arsenal so that you can have those on your tool belt in case you get into some niche situations where they come up. So for starters, let's go ahead and kick off this video. No reason to extend the intro. I want to show you guys, if you are not already using this already, this is a very simple macro that can shoot your healing and damage up in keys. So notice here, I just took Spinning Crane Kick from the spell book, and we're just going to spam right click it. But you see how my character pauses to think about life and all the mistakes they've made in that life between each Spinning Crane Kick? That is bad. But watch what happens when I use this macro. Do you see that delay? I have no regrets. And that's because I'm using a very simple macro instead of using the baseline Spinning Crane Kick from the spell book. And that is this one. Now, there are a lot of macros here, but this is like one of the only ones that I actually use. It's just /cast exclamation point Spinning Crane Kick, and that will help remove that delay between your Spinning Crane Kick casts. Very nice. Now, staying on the topic of Spinning Crane Kick, did you know that you can spin and roll and you can cast a couple spells and still get their full effectiveness and animation cancel kind of with roll? So if I spin and crane kick and then I roll, I have done two things in two separate instances. I've spinning crane kicked and then I have rolled. But did you know that you can spinning crane kick and roll? All you do, it's very simple. You press Spinning Crane Kick, say that like a swirly spawns underneath you as you're spinning in the middle of a pack and you need to roll out of dodge. It's a rapid extraction. You can Spinning Crane Kick and roll and watch how those damage numbers, they still happen. So if you want to do some movement while, or some quick movement while you're still keeping up that Awakened Jadefire healing or that damage rotation, you can do that. And the reason why I say it's not just Spinning Crane Kick is because the same is true for Blackout Kick. Once you start these two animations, they will finish. So if I tap Blackout Kick and then start a roll immediately after tapping Blackout Kick, my character will do all of those kicks like it would as if I didn't press roll. So if I Blackout Kick and then roll, they all still happen. I cash in all of those teaching stacks and I do a full slam of Blackout Kick and a roll all in one. So this does come up. If you watch me play Mistweaver, a lot of times I use this, especially if I know I'm going to roll for movement, or if I'm really, like I'm fighting the boss in the rookery that sucks you in, I'll get like one last Blackout Kick in before I roll out a dodge. And this can save you or help you play a little bit better with like getting one more, like squeaking in one more global when you didn't think you could, because yes, you can roll while spinning Crane Kick and it will still spin. Now this one I think I mentioned in my last tips and tricks video, but this will have to kind of do with roll again, as well as your buffs that you get from your Jadefire Stomp. Now really quickly, I just have to mention this in case you do not know this already. Your Ancient Teachings buff plus Jadefire Teachings, this starts the timer the moment that you press your Jadefire Stomp. You see there, 15 seconds after I press the button, I lose the buff. No matter how much I dance or tap my feet on this Jadefire Stomp, that buff doesn't come back until I press Jadefire Stomp again. Awakened Jadefire is different. This is what lets your Blackout Kicks cleave, your Tiger Palms hit twice, but also your Spinning Crane Kicks heal. This is not on a set timer from when I press Jadefire Stomp. It is on a set timer from when I leave my Jadefire Stomp. So you see here, I have the buff for 7 seconds after I walk off. I think it's technically 8, right? But yeah, I have this for 8 seconds after I leave my Jadefire Stomp. That means as long as I'm able to touch this Jadefire Stomp that is active on the ground, I can refresh that buff. So that means that I'm no longer tied to this Jadefire Stomp. I can kind of move around it freely and dodge swirlies and stuff. This comes into play very nicely with roll. I've only had to do this a couple of times, but it has really saved my group when it came up, and I'll show you a clip even of me doing this on stream. But notice this Jadefire Stomp is on the ground here. Imagine it gets covered up by a bunch of swirlies or stuff that would kill me if I stand in it. Well, if it's a slow ticking swirly, meaning that it's like a puddle on the ground that you can like tap your toes into really quick and it won't really get that first tick of damage off, you can roll through those swirlies, that death puddle, and as long as you roll over or double jump over with lighter than air, as long as you do one of these very quick mobility things over that puddle, you can refresh your buff because you technically were on top of your Jade Fire Stomp without taking the damage. So I'll go ahead and show you. So I'm Jade Fire Stomping. I get 15 seconds of Jade Fire Teachings. I also am off of my Jade Fire Stomp, so I get, well, let me touch it again. I get 8 seconds of my Awakened Jade Fire, but now I'm going to roll over my Jade Fire Stomp, and you're going to see me get this Awakened Jade Fire buff again, even though I'm just rolling over it. Boom, we have 8 more seconds. I'll show you once again, this does come up, and I'll go ahead and show you that the double jump also works too. As long as you technically are over that Jade Fire Stomp, it works. I wonder, now that I'm doing this video, something I haven't tested, what if we fly over our Jade Fire Stomp at like almost ground level? Let's test for science. Okay, that doesn't work. However, let me show you this clip really quick of this actually happening. So we are in a Priory of the Sacred Flame. This is the big Paladin pack that's a nightmare to heal, but it's made so much easier if you have a big pull count and you're able to just spin it. However, notice here, uh-oh, I have it on 2x speed. Notice here that my entire Jade Fire Stomp is completely covered by the consecrations, but luckily those consecrations, they don't do their ticks of damage very quickly. You have about 1 frame of being on the consecration before it does its first tick of damage, so I know that because I've tested for science that a couple times. I can roll over my Jade Fire Stomp and refresh that Awakened Jade Fire buff so that I don't have to cast this Jade Fire Stomp, or since I can't cast this Jade Fire Stomp, I'm not without it for 3 seconds. So here I roll over the buff. I don't take any damage. And notice that's also the tip there where I was spinning crank kicking as I was rolling. So that's 2 tips in 1 right there, and that's a practical use for it. I refresh my Awakened Jade Fire buff. I can now spin until right now. I guess my Jade Fire Stomp came off cooldown. Pretty cool stuff. Pretty cool stuff that you can do with roll. But if you thought that we were done with the roll tech, you are very mistaken. I don't know why I'm waving my hands all over the place. But one really cool thing is that if you play with Conduit of the Celestials, which we do in Raid, and a lot of people do still in Mythic Plus because it's fantastic. It does so much for you. But one of the things is, if you cast a healing spell while you're channeling your Celestial Conduit, it will break that channel and stop your cast. We know this. If I try to Vivify or Shaylin's Gift or Revival, it's going to stop that cast, that channel, which sucks. However, there are a lot of spells that you can cast during this channel that are very practical and fantastic that will still allow you to pulse healing. Say that my whole party is over here and there was a big swirly here, like say it's the Attracting Shadows and the Rookery, the guys that suck you in, those big AoE pulsing moments. But the Attracting Shadows sucks everyone in, but I'm on the other side of the puddle and my whole party's over here. If I am popping Conduit to save myself, but I want the last few ticks to heal my allies, you can roll while you're channeling Conduit and it will still pulse the healing as you're rolling. Same with Tiger's Lust. Your movement speed abilities work while you're channeling Celestial Conduit. So I'm going to pop Conduit and then I'm going to roll. Well, I'll Tiger's Lust and then roll myself. And it will still channel Celestial Conduit. So let's go ahead and channel Conduit, Tiger's Lust, roll, and we're still conduiting. It is so cool the amount of times that whenever I play Conduit and I roll as I'm pressing Conduit, it just feels so cool. Like, it comes up all the time. Now, moving from Conduit to the other hero talent tree, Master of Harmony, this section of the video is my most requested video. Almost every time that I stream, I have to fully explain the aspect of Harmony Dot and how to maximize it because the game does not do a great job of explaining it. So let me break it down for you. If you're playing Master of Harmony, if you pop your Thunder Focus Tea, you gain a 10-second window where you can use all of your stored up vitality to try to apply a hot to your allies. That's the baseline of what vitality and what aspect of Harmony is. So you pop your Thunder Focus Tea, it starts a 10-second window. You either use it all or you lose it. However, this talent here, Harmonic Gambit, is the only way that you can make that go into a dot instead of a hot. So how do you do that? Well, let's read Harmonic Gambit. So during that 10-second window after you pop your Thunder Focus Tea, that aspect of Harmony, Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick, and Tiger Palm will also withdraw vitality to damage enemies for an additional 20% over 8 seconds. Now, it makes it read like your Tiger Palm, your Rising Sun Kick, and Blackout Kick are going to be doing more damage, thus giving you more healing with Jadefire Teachings. However, that's not the case. That is not the case. It just will, these 3 spells, your single target damaging spells, will attempt to apply to start a dot on your enemies using your vitality. So these 3 spells are the only way that you can actually begin the dot on the enemies. And the reason why I'm emphasizing this is because I know a lot of people have told me, and I see this in coaching all the time, don't feel bad if you do this still. If you are trying to maximize your vitality and just trying to do damage, pretend like I have a full vitality meter here. I only have a few 100,000. But say I had full vitality and I'm like, okay, I want to do as much damage as possible to this cleave dummy. Or I guess I can come over here to these 2 dummies to make it easier to see. A lot of people think, okay, I'm going to pop my Thunder Focus Tea, and then I'm going to Crackling Jade Lightning, because a lot of people are playing Jade Empowerment. And they're like, that's going to do so much damage, because I'm going to, 1, be doing a big Jade Empowerment to that enemy, and 2, it's going to be dotting up the enemy and doing all my vitality. But that's not true, because first, before you can enhance the dot or make it tick for a lot, you first have to start it up on that enemy. You have to like splash the gasoline on the enemy before you throw a match on them so they'll catch fire, or else nothing happens. And in order to do that, once again, these are the only 3 spells in our entire kit that can start or first apply the dot to the enemy. So if I pop Thunder Focus Tea here and then I Crackling Jade Lightning, you're going to see it does not apply a dot. So let me Thunder Focus Tea, Crackling Jade Lightning. Oh, what? There we go. Crackling Jade Lightning, it did not do anything. They don't have a dot ticking on them. I only did my Crackling Jade Lightning debuff. But now let me get a bit more vitality ready. Let's just Vivify. Let's get some vitality. If I first Tiger Palm them a few times, each Tiger Palm will try to start the dot on them, and then the moment that I see that they have that dot on them, then I'll Crackling Jade Lightning, and then you'll see that I'm going to use up all the vitality. So you see my vitality meter has 3.6 million vitality in it. So first, I'm going to Thunder Focus Tea, then I'm just going to Tiger Palm a few times to start to strike that match, to try to get that fire started, that dot started on them. And then the damage that I do, any amount of damage that I do, will try to intensify using the rest of the vitality, the dots that I've already applied. So Thunder Focus Tea, now we're going to Tiger Palm a few times. You see there that meter went down and that guy's ticking for 9k. Now my Crackling Jade Lightnings are attempting to enhance that dot, and unfortunately that Crackling Jade Lightning did not. It did not enhance, but at least I applied the dot. That's, once again, a very suboptimal way to do it. Trying to just like do 1 Tiger Palm and then enhance it with just 1 Crackling Jade Lightning. Obviously you want to try to hit it more often to get more chances to enhance it. Unfortunately there, I did not enhance it, but that's how it works, is you first have to apply it with one of these 3 spells listed on Harmonic Gambit, and then from there, any damage that you do, once that dot is applied, any damage that you do will enhance it thanks to Coalescence. So some great ways to maximize this. If you're fighting an AoE pack where all these little guys are little henchmen, there's no like boss, say that they're all just like ads, okay? They're all the same exact ad. It doesn't matter which one dies first. You don't need to priority focus one down. What you can do to dump your vitality, let me get some vitality before I do that, is you can use your blackout kicks to apply it. So you can cleave your blackout kicks to try to apply it to multiple enemies at once. So I'm going to Thunder Focus Tea, Rising Sun Kick. Well, let me Tiger Palm a few times first. Let me just store up my blackout kick stacks. So I'm gonna Thunder Focus Tea, Rising Sun Kick, and then do a big blackout kick. And you see all of these enemies, I applied it to 3 different enemies there. Now, luckily I was able with all those blackout kicks to hit, apply, and then enhance the dot. But imagine I just applied it and I still have like a full thing of vitality. What would that look like? Well, once again, let me get some vitality. So we're gonna Vivify myself as quickly as possible and hope that my meter updates with like 6 million. No, we still only have 3 million, but that's okay. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to Thunder Focus Tea, Rising Sun Kick, unleash that big AoE cleaving blackout kick to try to apply the dot to someone. And then from there, I'm going to spinning crane kick, because every tick of spinning crane kick will attempt to enhance any dot that already exists on an enemy. Oh my god, this Ret Paladin is wrecking these dummies. Anyways, okay, so let me do some Tiger Palms to get my Blackout Kick stacks. Okay, I'm going to Thunder Focus Tea, Rising Sun Kick, unleash those Blackout Kicks. Someone has the dot on them. Now we're just going to spin and try to enhance the dots that exist. Boom, one of these guys has a 1.1 million ticking dot. So that's how the dot works. Don't think that you should Thunder Focus Tea and then immediately Crackling Jade Lightning, because one, you don't need to do that. Jade Empowerment is completely separate. It's a completely separate buff from the buff that your Thunder Focus Tea gives you. Your Thunder Focus Tea enhances one of these spells listed here under the tooltip, and then on top of that, it will give you a buff that does not have a timer called Jade Empowerment. So you don't need to Thunder Focus Tea and then immediately Crackling Jade Lightning. That's bad. I would never do that. But what you can do is you can Thunder Focus Tea, Rising Sun Kick, because that's enhanced from the Crackling Jade Lightning, and then use the Crackling Jade Lightning, because then your Crackling Jade Lightning will be versatility buffed by your Secret Infusion. So that's just like a little nitpicky thing. Well, Secret Infusion. But that is like the worst explained thing in the game, I think, is Aspect of Harmony, or how to maximize it as a dot. So that is how you maximize it, is you first have to apply it thanks to Harmonic Gambit. That's what's allowing you to use it as a dot, and then you have to enhance it from there with Coalescence. Hopefully that made it easier to understand for some of you guys, because I know a lot of people have asked me about this, and a lot of people still play it wrong and wonder why they aren't doing any damage as a Mistweaver Monk. It's probably because you were trying to apply the dot with the spells not listed here, like Spinning Crane Kick or something, or Crackling Jade Lightning. But that is Master of Harmony. All right, let's move away from the hero talent trees, because I think I've explained one of the best tech for Conduit of the Celestials, and the most asked question on all of Mistweaver having to do with Master of Harmony. Let's talk about Sheilun's Gift. Sheilun's Gift, ever since they brought it back into the game, it is a fantastic cooldown. However, I think a lot of people are kind of underwhelmed. If you're someone that played back in Season 3 of Dragonflight when this was at its strongest, it literally full healed the entire party. It did. It was crazy. It full healed the entire party at 10 stacks. Now it doesn't quite do that, so I think a lot of people think it is weak. And if you are someone who doubts the power of Sheilun's Gift, let me ask you something. What if you could buff Sheilun's Gift to where it did 2.1 times the amount of healing that it does? Then would you press it? Would you see its strength? Then would you be happy with it? Well, that's kind of how a lot of top-end Mistweavers play this spell. Is it just does 2.1 times the healing of what it does for most of you guys, because you don't know that the importance of enhancing your Sheilun's Gift. How can you make your Sheilun's Gift do 2.1 times the healing? Well, it's very simple. If you have Chi Harmony on an ally, and you have your Enveloping Mist buff on them with the talent Mist Wrap, your Enveloping Mist buff will multiply your healing done to that ally by 1.4 times, right? And then on top of that, Chi Harmony buffs your healing done to them by 1.5 times. Multiply all that together, you get 2.1 times the amount of healing done to that ally. So all of a sudden, your 10 stack Sheilun's Gift is hitting as hard as a 21 stack Sheilun's Gift. That is why, like, in a lot of dungeons where I know I'm coming up to a very difficult heal check, and in my mind I'm saying, oh, I can heal this heal check with just Sheilun's Gift, some people probably watch me say that and think that's not going to be strong enough to heal through that heal check. Like, that damage is so much more than a Sheilun's Gift can handle. But that's because I spend a few globals before I press the Sheilun's Gift, before that damage actually hits my party. Instead of still punching and kicking while my whole party's full health, I will cast a few Enveloping Mists on my DPS and possibly myself, and then I will Thunder Focus Tea, Rising Sun Kick, and then do some global, Rising Sun Kick again to extend all of those Enveloping Mists, and now all of a sudden, everyone has like a 14 second, I guess the lowest duration Enveloping Mist now would be about 9 seconds, but now up to four people have Enveloping Mist on them. Casting all of those Enveloping Mists and those Rising Sun Kicks has applied Chi Harmony to my whole party, and now Sheilun's Gift is going to do 2.1 times healing to the squishies in my party. That is so much more than a baseline Shayloon's gift. So if you are not doing this to try to push your Shayloon's gift to the next limit in those harder, higher keys versus those bigger heal checks, try it next time. I promise you, these HOTS, these healing amplifiers, they add up. They are part of what makes Mistweaver strong, so use them to your advantage. The next section in this video is going to be talking about skips, because as a Mythic Plus pusher, you probably come across a lot of instances where people are like, hey Monk, do you know how to do this skip or that skip? And a lot of them happen around Ring of Peace plus Paralysis, or just Ring of Peace or just Paralysis, things like that. But those two spells are the key spells that you're using when you do skips. So the first big skip that I want to show you is this one. We just killed this first boss in Cinderbrew, and we're coming around this corner, so we would have just fought this Hobgoblin pack. You can technically skip this pack here in this corner, but it's very unreliable in my testing. Maybe I just am bad. Anyways, but how you skip this corner pack is you target this nearest mob, this taste tester here. He's the one nearest to you. You're gonna paralyze it. Oh, I should mention, in order for your paralysis not to aggro once it ends, you need to not have pressure points, which, mind you, in Cinderbrew, pressure points is a great talent because you can soothe away the spill brew buff that the enemies can put on themselves. So it already is a concession. If your group is like, I really want to skip this pack, then you can be like, okay, then I have to drop my soothe to make it a 100% guaranteed thing. So step one, don't have pressure points if you're going to do a skip. Step two, you're going to paralyze this taste tester, and then let me get closer to him. It's very sketchy doing skips. I always just tiptoe there, and then you're going to boop them into the corner with Ring of Peace, and it allows you to slip right around. And you see, we did not grab aggro. Once that paralysis ends, everyone's over there. We can just hug this wall and come right down, and you can go move on to this pack. So that's skip number one. Let me go ahead and kill them though, so that I can show you skip number two, which is a very unique skip that I think someone that I was in a group with showed me. And now, mind you, there are plenty of different ways that you can skip with things like Shadow Meld and stuff, like your tank can skip and all that stuff. But this next one has to do with these flavor scientists and the two hobgoblins that are attached to him. So you'll notice that this flavor scientist is patrolling, and these two hobgoblins are like drunk in love with this flavor scientist. Okay, they will do whatever he wants them to do. So what we can do as a monk is we can will him not to fight us by paralyzing him. So let's wait till he comes in. I'm spamming my paralyze button. Out of range. Oh, I'm so nervous. Okay, so I've paralyzed this flavor scientist. Then you can boop him as far to the left as possible. So I'm going to put this ROP right under his feet, and those hobgoblins will follow him, and you can hug this wall if you boop him far enough and skip that pack. Super insane tech. I mean, you guys know this hobgoblins. Look, my DPS friend just said, oh, he didn't know you could even skip that. That's cool. Yeah, that flavor scientist is the brains behind this little 3-man operation, but you still want to get him as far away, let those hobgoblins move with him, and then you can skip that pack. That is such a time save. But note that these guys are worth a good bit of percent. But yeah, look at them just in timeout looking at the wall. That's a pretty sick skip, so if you push with like a push group, you can use this skip in Cinderbrew. But let's move on to a different dungeon. So the next skip that I want to show you guys is in Theater of Pain. So everyone knows that you can para this guy just like the last skip and then boop him to the right a lot. That's a skip that a lot of people see and use a lot. But what I don't think a lot of people know is that you can also just use ROP plus a lock gate. And the benefit to doing this is if you're the only Soothe in your group, it allows you to keep your pressure points ready. You don't have to waste your para on paraing this guy. And also on top of that, on a second note, whenever you para this guy, for some reason this season, I've had the para ROP skip fail on this contender so many times. And as we're fighting that boss, this guy's para will break and he'll run in and kill the whole group. This whole group will. So what I like to do instead is I like to ROP this guy here, and then take a gate. So if I'm the only Soothe, that allows me to keep my Soothe. And then also, if 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 I don't want to risk parrying this guy and risk him grabbing combat for some reason, it's good for that too. So let's para him, or let's rop him, and then we will use the gate toy, and we should be on that Bloodhorn. And boom. You see, it is a lot safer, in my opinion. I do this skip any chance I get. I always take a Warlock in this dungeon anyways, because they're very nice for later in the dungeon doing gate skips. But two, I never have to worry about my para randomly aggroing this contender. Have you guys had the para fail you this season? Because I have so many times, and it's so frustrating. If you know why it's not pressure points, why my para, whenever it breaks, it's pulling this contender, let us know in the comments. Let's all solve it together so that we don't need a Warlock to make it 100%. Yeah, this gate skip, this ROP gate skip is very clutch. All right, this next tip is pretty niche, and once again, I have a VOD lined up, but it can make probably the hardest pull of this entire dungeon cycle so much easier. It's a little thing, but it adds up, I promise you. Once you get to these higher keys, every little thing adds up. So you'll see here we are in Mechagon Workshop. I'm doing a plus 15. This is a much older VOD. It's from May 22nd. April 22nd. But this tip, or this trick, involves the talent Fatal Touch, which reads, whenever you touch of death, it increases your damage. It gives you a damage buff for 5% for 30 seconds. Super cool. Okay, it gives you a damage buff of 5% for 30 seconds. So the tip here is in fights like this, or you can start using your Fatal Touch, or your Touch of Death, as a defensive spell. So right now I'm fighting in the VOD probably one of the easiest healing bosses of the entire season. The only thing that you really have to heal is if someone takes accidental avoidable damage, and that's it. It's just spot healing. But after this boss is arguably the hardest pack in the entire game to heal. These double spider tanks, they are brutal. So what can you do? You can use your Touch of Death on head Spark Flux. And that way, like, yeah, it's not the most valuable Touch of Death from a damage standpoint, but that way you're going to have a damage increase, a damage buff for almost the entire double spider tank pool. And this is especially value if you're running a build that I am not running in this video. So if you are running like the Jade Empowerment Chi-Ji build, Ancient Teachings, Jadefire Teachings build, you can have a 5% damage buff just for free. Literally for free, for using your Touch of Death to kill the last boss before this one. And that's just one example. Think of all the pools that are difficult and how you could use your Touch of Death on the pool before that so that you come into that fight with a 30% damage buff. On Big Mama in Floodgate, you can Touch of Death her last ad, and that way you have a damage buff so you can use your Crackling Jade Lightnings during her jumpstart phase. There are so many ways that you can use this little buff. But this is what makes Mistweaver so cool, is there are so many things in their kit that seem like it might not be a lot, but they all add up. And it makes Mistweaver so fun to try to min-max, because now all of a sudden, your offensive spell that seems like it's just an execute can give you some inherent healing value. Very cool, very helpful. Has helped me time my 16 Mechagon Workshop, where someone survived the spider tank at the spider tank pool at literally like sub 1% HP. Like, it was crazy. And I had that Fatal Touch buff. Unfortunately, I don't have a VOD of it, but I was using Crackling Jade Lightning during them almost dying, and I was just thinking, like, man, if I didn't have Fatal Touch, that person was dead. So pretty cool tech there. It's very niche, but it can really help you on some of these hard pulls in the dungeon cycle. And then lastly, I'm going to talk about composition forming. Now here I just have my raid group just to give them a shout out. I love my guild. But I want to talk about when I am forming my own Mythic Plus group, I have really started to cherry pick a few specs, and it's not because they're meta. It's not like I wait for a Disc Priest, a Vengeance Demon Hunter, Balance Druid, and Arcane Mage. I'm not that guy, okay? I am not that guy. But what I do is I try to form a comp around the spec that I'm playing, which is Mistweaver Monk. And one of the big popularized specs, or big popularized push groups, is the physical comp. I think Ordomist and Vegan and all of them, I think they popularized it. I could be wrong. But either way, it's the push group that they use. It's the composition of 5 specs that they use. So as a monk, you guys know we bring Mystical Touch, which adds a 5% physical damage debuff. So one, we have a monk. All of a sudden, now we're forming a group around what we're playing. So specs that are great, just a few that are great to be in this physical comp are any warrior specs. They do a ton of physical damage and they give you a buff too to make you do more damage. Very nice. There's also Feral Druids or Guardian Druids. They both do a ton of physical damage and work very well, and that's a great way to get your verse buff from a Druids. Instead of taking a Balanced Druid, try out a Feral Druid. Trust, they will do big damage because of your buff. However, if you're doing a dungeon like Mechagon Workshop where you need that Solar Beam, that could be a reason to take the Balanced Druid over the Feral Druid. But anyways, try a Feral Druid, try Guardian Druids. They're very nice with us. As for a Lust class, if you're used to taking Arcane Mages, because you see all the top streamers taking Arcane Mages and Ellie Shamans and whatnot, try taking the Hunters and the Enhancement Shamans because they work very well with your physical damage buff, and you will be sending them to the moon at how much damage they're going to be doing thanks to you and how much you're going to benefit as a whole in a party because you're all buffing each other in good ways that are very synergistic. Outside of that, there's like Rogue. Really, any physical, heavy, smack, punch, kicky spec will benefit very well in groups like this. But some off niche picks that I like to take as like that 5th slot to fill my group to start my key on a timely manner. If there's like not a rogue queuing up or something, sometimes I like to take a Demon Hunter. Not because they're magical. They basically have the magical side of our physical debuff, which that doesn't really help us a ton, but it really helps things like Hunters. Hunters have like their hero talent tree that does a lot of shadow damage, I think it is. But they do kind of double dip from Demon Hunter debuff and Monk debuff. So try them. They're a pretty fun DPS to play alongside. They're pretty tanky from my experience, and they'll be helping out your other DPS in other ways. That way everyone's just doing the maximum damage possible. And it's just a fun time to play with some off-meta specs. So definitely try that if you're forming your group. Try some different specs. Try to think, how are they benefiting from my Monk physical debuff? And then you might start forming together some comps that you never thought would work, but are blasting keys. But guys, outside of that, I think I've yapped on long enough. I have talked about so much random stuff in this video, but I tried to make it as helpful as stuff as possible. A lot of things that I think about on an actual day-to-day basis, like skips, like Aspect of Harmony, I'm answering that literally every day. Conduit, whenever I play that, I always think about how mobile you are and how you can roll during it. Comps, I put together comps, 30 times a day probably. These things are very relevant. So in case you were kind of unaware, maybe just didn't know why we do certain things the way we do them, that's why. That's at least how I think about them. But guys, thank you so much for watching this video. It might come out to be a pretty long one, so I do apologize, but I really, like I said, wanted to put a lot of useful stuff in here. So please make sure and hit the like button because I'm going to have to edit a ton of crap out of this video, and it's going to take me a long time. I would really appreciate you hitting that button. Make sure you're subscribed because there is a lot of not just Mistweaver content coming, but some pretty heavy healer stuff planned. I have a ton of awesome video ideas planned and content ideas planned for you guys. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that because we are climbing up in subscribers and I love hanging out with you guys and making videos for you guys. Speaking of hanging out with you guys, make sure that you guys tune into my streams Monday, Wednesday, Friday on YouTube or Twitch at 1 p.m. Central. We stream for a couple of hours and they are the most fun hours of the week for me. So thank you guys if you do come out. But if you haven't and you're debating if you want to watch a stream or not, just come out. It's a fun time. Yeah, I like hanging out with you guys. But guys, thank you so much for the support to the channel lately, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and learned something from it. Let me know anything that you thought should be in this video down in the comments below that I didn't quite make it to or mention. But guys, I'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care, guys.